The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
First week of podcast here again, mid-December, 10 days from Christmas. Kyle Nash here with us on the pod. Been a little while, buddy.
I mean, listen, some of us continue working and some of us take random hiatuses, man. It is what it is. Don't worry. That's not me fronting on you.
Wait a second. Let's stop that real quick. I didn't go on hiatus. I told you what happened. I had 1 week my kids were out of school. That's Thanksgiving week. Another week I had to go to luncheon.
So your kids were out of school. I was with both my kids who were also out of school and in New Orleans. But okay, that's cute.
But I can't record. But you know I can't record my kids in a house like this. They're not going to leave me alone.
Are you trying to say my kids hate me? Is that it?
I'm gonna say I don't want to do a podcast when my kids are here and then I have to worry about what they're doing and they pop in the room while I'm recording. You saw the disaster a couple weeks ago with my kids when they come in the room unannounced. You've seen that already.
They dunked on the Huddle of podcast. Bing!
Yeah, getting dunked on by Eli.
Yeah, he dunked on you hard, buddy.
Yeah, he did. He really did, man. He really did. So it's been maybe about a month since we recorded, but we got a lot to talk about here. You know,
let's do it, man. Listen, I missed your sassy self, buddy.
I mean, you can only miss me so much though, because we still at very least have Tuesday nights.
Will you stop fucking up the rotation?
What? What do you mean? Man,
I try to show you some love for once instead of talking cash shit all over you. See, I even love you so much. I cursed twice on your show because I know that's how you like it.
It twice in a minute and 35 seconds.
Yeah, you like it when I talk dirty, apparently.
I do. I really do. Let's start here first, though. Your neck of the woods here.
Yes.
The Niners and Brock Purdy.
Oh, I thought you meant Jacksonville for a minute. I'm sorry. Go ahead. It's very confusing.
Technically, it's funny that's on the docket next, but technically but you're a Niners fan. I mean, I know you are a Niners fan.
I am, yeah. It's my fanhood's always been obvious. I always have the appropriate attire on, and I always talk appropriately. By the way, as much as we talk about it, there was an example of a real Giants fan on the Student of the Game pod this week in Danielle Orsino. You might want to check that out, EJ.
I will be checking that today on my lunch break. Well, I'm off today, but my lunch break, you know what I mean?
Oh, bro, listen. Just because you don't have work doesn't mean you can't keep busy. I've done proven that ish in my short time out of work here. I digress.
How's that going? It's
listen, covering the Cure Bowl was a lot easier because I didn't ask for the time off. That coach's presser was awesome.
So you're still occupied anyway, but even without work.
I mean, that covering UCF basketball for the Black and Gold Banneret. They have the basketball invitational, the Christmas invitational. I forget what the name of the tournament is, but I'll be there covering the men's and the women if things go according to plan.
Yeah.
It's man. Listen. Don't call it a comeback. I done never laughed.
So, Purdy, so far, I mean, a game and a half, maybe a game and 3/4.
So this is what game management looks like, right? Like this is what you expect of a quarterback who's this young and in a Shanahan offense who's a third stringer, right? Manage the game. And you and I have had the conversation ad nauseum because we've been with it that far. You even saw the video that's on the Hilarity by Default website regarding the different styles of quarterback, right? Game manager, tactician, and gunslinger, right? Right. Which, I mean, with all that in mind, game managers become a slur when it's really not. Even your boy Thomas Edward Patrick Bieber Brady is a game manager, right? Somebody who thrives on reducing turnovers and getting the ball to playmakers, right? And it's funny. This is why Tom Brady's actually good. It has nothing to do with his personal talents. Physically speaking, he's kind of like lacking. That's the facts of the case. Just look at him. But he's able to know where the ball needs to go, and he just studies that much harder than you. Like that's the fact. So if you look at it early in his career, where there was a lot of running for the Patriots, right? The defense did a lot of the heavy lifting. Then the running backs were gone. Belichick called a bunch of bubble screens, and that was their run game, and Tom got the ball to them. Then they got that elite wide receiver core, right? Moss, Welker, and that group started slinging and breaking records that way. That's what game managers do. And this was what Brock Purdy was asked to do, granted on a much smaller scale, obviously, because those weapons are all present for San Francisco's offense, right?
Right. I think, like I said before, like on Hull Podcast, of course, that I think, here we go. The reason why I was not worried about the Niners moving forward, even losing Jimmy G, was that my assessment was that I don't think this team loses the beat as long as Purdy plays within the system. Mm-hmm. This team wasn't built on Jimmy G or Trey Lance, for that matter. Right. Okay. It's surrounded on a great defense and a coach who knows how to make great play calls, top 5 coach in the league, in my opinion. You know, as long as Brock Purdy plays within the system with the talent he has around him anyway, this team can still get to the NFC Championship game or even beyond that, the Super Bowl. That's why I was not worried when Jimmy got hurt. Now, Deebo Samuel getting hurt. Now, granted, the injury we hear is not as serious as we thought it was. Well, that's a bigger issue.
How many full seasons has Deebo even played, buddy? They ain't there.
Right, it's true.
This was what was risky about Deebo's contract negotiation. It wasn't about whether he should run the ball or be a receiver, although granted, one could argue it is in the sense that running the ball puts you at more risk for injury, granted. Right. And listen, if you follow the play, you don't get hurt, dummy. I said it. Look at the play, EJ. It was not designed to go up the middle. Anyways, so with all that in mind, Deebo has never actually finished a season. Again, is that because of the scheme and him being asked to run the ball at Met? Sure. But you act like they can't live without Deebo. That's not true anymore, right? I think Christian McCaffrey alters that, right? So then you still have Kittle. You still have Ayuk, who's improved by leaps and bounds. Deebo Samuel is not a number one receiver. There is not a number one receiver, except maybe Kittle as the tight end might be that level of tight end. Kyle Juszczyk is that level of fullback, even though the bar's low in this NFL nowadays. Like that, those are the two things where they have standouts over and above. Everybody else isn't great. They're just a jack of all trades. You don't know what they're doing. So much of that offense is run on deception, looks, and movement and versatility. And I've said this to you before on other shows and other places, EJ, including the Earnestly Speaking podcast. Bing, bing. Does it count when I'm doing it for that podcast?
No.
Well, but I've said it as the student of the game plenty. Bing. There you go. So the offense at the snap always has the advantage because they know when the play will start, be it the snap count or silent, and they know where the play is going and the defense does it. If the defense is guessing, they are vulnerable. When dangerous things happen is when the defense doesn't guess. That's why the Titans stealing the playbook from the Jacksonville Jaguars in the Brunell era that got them to the Super Bowl, where the Jags were 14-3 and those 3 losses came to the Titans. Yeah, it's because they stole the playbook. They knew what was coming, Ernest Christian.
Right.
So all that to say, the reason why Shanahan's offense is awesome is because you don't know what's going to happen. And here's the thing. If Deebo's out, you probably know even less about what's going to happen.
Fair point. Do you still? I don't know if I still, because I've been probably higher than most on the Hull Up show when it comes to the Niners. I've been on when I call the bandwagon. Go right ahead.
You've been kind of ridiculous. And listen, this has never been about not believing in the 49ers. I always thought they were a playoff team, right? Nobody saw the Rams falling this far. I think that's safe to say, right?
Yeah, of course.
You know,
bottom 5 team.
Right. Yeah, at this point, it's hard to argue that. I mean, when Baker Mayfield can be a hero for your team just because he hasn't had enough time to tick people off, I mean, that should tell you everything you need to know. But I feel like it was never your belief in the Niners. It's you telling me they're better than this many AFC teams that I cannot abide.
A la power rankings, of course.
Correct.
Well, I mean, you haven't had a problem with my power rankings the last 2 weeks because I've had Niners since the injury at 5.
Listen, 12 down, 2 down, 12. It took you 12 weeks to get here. Listen, I wish I had 3 months to work on every show, but I don't. I got to do it week to week. And Bill, you're sorry, bud.
I appreciate it. And 10 years later, we're still doing it, right?
I mean, listen, buddy. At least, well, yeah. Yeah, that's a whole other question. I was going to take a shot at one of my former co-hosts, but I won't do that. Continue.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. The team that you actually are in the backyard of, though, you do cover actually the Jaguars.
I do.
Yeah. I'm gonna say something here, and I did say it on Huddle Up, and I'll say it here on this show for the people who don't listen to Huddle Up and don't know my take on the Jags.
First of all, listen to Huddle Up and get a hold of your life. What's wrong?
Exactly. It's promoted. It's on the show notes, man. I promote it all the time. I go on there every Tuesday. I'll say it again. It is to me the most fun I'm having podcasting right now in the last like 6 months. I have a great time doing it. But I'm gonna say what I said in the show here. Basically, without looking at the draft, without looking at the free agency, whatever. Right now, if I'm feeling the pulse of the AFC South going forward, the Jags win the division next year. The Jags are the only team in that division I feel like is actually ascending. And obviously, there's a lot to do with Trevor Lawrence.
That's the way to put it.
Trevor Lawrence is playing out of his gourd now. Like if we were to encapsulate Trevor Lawrence, is like, okay, obviously he had a couple good games early in the year, and he slipped a little bit in like first quarter, second quarter of the year. But more than not, this year Trevor Lawrence has been pretty darn good. And I would dare say that going into next year, if we're doing a top 10 quarterback list, he might be on the doorstep. No, I'm not saying he's going to be top 10. He might be on the doorstep, though.
I mean,
no? No, you're close to the action, obviously. So you give me your assessment on the Jags in the next year.
So, and there's a couple things. First of all, let me get a couple things out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
This receiver core still drops entirely too many goddamn passes.
That's right.
It's just absolutely asinine. Listen, getting rid of Laviska Shenault was awesome. I have no idea why. It might have been Trevor, if I remember correctly, too, that was pounding the table for him to stay. But I love that they shipped him. And I'm not trying to talk trash on the human being, but he won it. And he was the number 2 option before they went shopping for this receiver core that they have now. Right? But Trevor, and this isn't me saying Trevor is bad. He's just not there yet. The jury's still out. Hell, I was all but sold on him, and then the Ravens game happened. That's the one that's impressive to me. Yeah, everybody wants to lose their mind. Oh, look what he did against the Titans. Here's the thing, EJ. That group at the linebacker spot, ironically, their coach being a former NFL Super Bowl caliber linebacker, is awful. And Coach Doug Peterson exposed that. And we talked about that a little bit. But here's the thing. Coach Doug Peterson, if he's not pencil whipping the other team 9 times out of 10, is not winning the football game. And that's the difference right now, at least Trevor Lawrence isn't making, right? He initially in the Giants game is the best example. And granted, I know that's a number of months back and Trevor has gotten better since then. Let's not get stupid, but it serves as a case study in why Trevor isn't there yet, right? Initially, the Jags had a good plan to pencil whip the Giants. Though the Jags lost the game, I feel like that game, going the way it did, exposed the Giants to other losses.
Yeah.
Okay. It also introduced the league to Wendell Robinson, too, as a side note, who unfortunately got hurt shortly after, but that's not the point. When Saquon got stopped for a while, and Daniel Jones ran for 100, or Danny Dimes ran for 100 yards on his own, which enabled Saquon to open up to get his 100-yard game late after a big carry or two. That set the table for how to stop that group, right? That started with Doug Peterson and his coaching staff getting that read right. When Daboll, who we've established as a good coach, albeit not the coach of the year, but a good coach, listen, don't worry, Danielle Orsini still thinks Daboll is it. If you need, some last gasps and breath of this campaign, you can listen to this Do the Game podcast and steal from her notebook. But an actual Giants fan, I thought it might help you. So,
hold up, buddy.
Yeah, and you're gonna go get a mug from the.
Name my son Eli. Go ahead, next.
Right, because you're obviously following the Bible with your Jewish wife. Anyways,
damn, you find a way to forget. Wow,
it's called talent.
That's right.
No, but and all of that, where the plan kind of, I'm not going to say failed late, defensively, and Trevor and the crew had to make a play. They were just a yard short, right? The plan was there for them to win that football game. The players just didn't execute quite enough to make it happen. Now, granted, there's a Travis Etienne fumble here and there and all that. Sure. Etienne is himself still technically a rookie, and Giants fans would try to steal the comeback player of the year honors from him if it weren't already going to Geno. But yeah, I say all the above to say, it's just not quite there yet. But to your point, my good friend, an offseason can do an awful lot. And having a second offseason with Doug Peterson actually getting time to fully cleanse himself of the Urban Meyer experience, you might be onto something. And the rest of the division ain't exactly progressing either. Indy is going to have to entirely change their identity after the failed Jeff Saturday experiment. The Titans are another year older at running back, which is the only way they succeed. The only way the Titans continue to be a problem is if Malik Willis develops quickly in the coming offseason, which I'm not going to rule out, but that's a big ask for anybody of his caliber, especially for a team that has virtually no weapons, and that's where the draft's going to come in. What will the Titans do to pull in? Will they get in some wide receiver talent? Will they actually get some playmakers to support Malik Willis? And even if they do, they still need time to develop, while the Jags still have Stephon Ridley. They'll have another year for Trevor Lawrence. Coach Doug Peterson would have had another year to develop this group. Maybe they address and get a little better on the offensive line. Maybe they tool up their defensive secondary and make that a true defense because their front is really good. There's some contract things that make that problematic too. The writing on the wall is that they have the opportunity to rise as the other ships sink. I'm with that. But again, there's still a lot of I'm still contemplating the ifs, doing my best. I'm doing my best Ving Rhames there. I'm contemplating the ifs. And you're all, I don't want to be here about no motherfucking ifs. Anyway. Yes, I just made you bald Sam Jackson. There's worse things.
I loved it.
Anyway.
I love it. All right, let's get to Coach on the hot seat. 4 weeks ago,
Josh McDaniels. Sorry, what?
Oh yeah, what I'm gonna do is this. I have 1, 4, 5, 7 guys here that are coaches that I just rate them 1 to 10. 10 being the hottest seat, 1 being the lowest. And this guys, they could be coaches that are not really on the hot seat. But these are guys I just find interesting to talk about here.
Okay.
And we can talk about the narratives here, of course. Now this year alone, we've had what, 1 coach gets fired already? We had
in Indy, right?
In Indy, and Frank Reich. So that's off the table.
Oh, and then Carolina, they had a change.
Oh, right, Carolina. Yes, right. Losing
Rule.
Matt Rule, right. So here's 7 guys I have here. This one might be a little bit of a surprise, but I wanted to talk about it just for narrative's sake going forward.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin, Pittsburgh Steelers.
Hell no. Oh God, EJ, listen.
Mm-hmm. Zero.
Can you go negative? Like he's filled up enough swag in that city. And when's the last time did they fire Bill Cowher or did he retire? Hell, when's the last time a coach actually got effing fired?
I don't think ever. I think no, because Noel retired.
Yeah, Cowher
retired. Tom's been the coach since 2007.
The only reason why Tomlin might get fired instead of retiring is because he started so damn young. No, Omar Epps is fine. Listen, and the biggest beef I had with Mike Tomlin ever was just this offseason where he didn't start Kenny Pickett. But I agree. I think he's ready to repair and come back from that.
And they've been playing a little better recently too.
It helped to get TJ Watt back. And I mean, all of the struggles for the Steelers, they may start with that offensively, I'll grant you. Yeah. But defensive struggles too with, Minka getting hurt, some TJ Watt missing the amount of time that he did. Those are big deals, buddy.
All right. Next one, we have Lovie Smith. He's in Texans.
I know the fans might call for his execution. I'm not there yet, because all you do is bring complete and total unrest. If somehow a guy who is an offensive coach becomes available, I'd have the conversation. I'm going to put it at a 6. Okay. But I don't know who that coach would be, right? Like, let's say, for example, if this were last year's offseason, and Lincoln Riley was interested in taking NFL calls, then at that point I'd be like, let's get an offensive guy in here. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah, and Lovie, to me, I mean, even with the hire, we kind of already assume he's a bridge anyway, a bridge guy to another guy to keep the things afloat until they find the guy they really want. It's always felt like that to me anyway with Houston and Lovie Smith anyway. So I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
How about Now, granted, they're playing better now, and they got a schedule. We'll talk about it in the picks, the lock section. But Brandon Staley, the Chargers.
Here's the reason why he's in big trouble, and I know you've not liked him, and I had this thought.
I've softened though recently in recent weeks.
Well, and that's a mistake. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
First of all, I do love that he pulled that game out against the Chargers. The
Dolphins. The Dolphins.
Thank you. So sorry. Against the Dolphins. That was that gave them playoff life in a whole new way. Kyle, is just one game. No, a conference record matters and tie breaks, and those are going to come up if things go well. Listen, I'll never forget the best prediction I've had on your show was the Chargers. I think it was 16. When there was that whole cluster and the Chargers had that, I don't know if they could, that long shot. And I called that. Yeah, of course you do, because it was effing amazing. He said,
absolutely. Yeah.
But this is going to be that kind of a run. Granted, less surprising because in my mind, the Chargers were a potential division winning candidate, and then all the injuries happened. But are the Chargers winning because of the coach, or are they winning because they're getting their health back? Coaches don't dictate health. Okay. So with all that in mind, when the Chargers lose, the talk hasn't been of injury. It's been of, they were really close, but then there was a coaching, or they got too aggressive, or it was a strategy problem from the top. Right.
Right.
So Justin Herbert and company, I think, are hiding this guy. The front office should be pissed. If I'm the GM of the Chargers and I got talent this deep to where they're in this many games, missing that many damn people and that many damn spots, yeah, that's on coach. Now, granted, will Spano see that? Not exactly a great history there in the former San Diego.
And he's cheap.
Well, I mean, you can find young coaches that are talented if you have that talent. I don't know that he does. That's where we have the problem. The real cash money move in my mind, you bring in Brian Flores, you get goodwill. You won't have to pay quite as much because he'll be looking to get back in a big market to attack. Mm-hmm. I think Flores to LA in that instance would be a good idea if they could pull it off. I'm doubtful, but another thing that could be a good lookout if they're trying to look for an offensive guy. And by the way, I mentioned look for an offensive guy. I don't think the Texans would actually do this, nor do I think he would take the job. But I'd look at Byron Leftwich out there, folks. With how things are going in Tampa right now, his expectations and demands may drop. And so long as you don't, have the front office situation that Trent Baalke's in the way, Maurice Jones-Drew is connected to L.A. with the Rams. I could see him going to that city too, and then also the Chargers, same thing, LA. I can see that, there's stuff there. I'm not saying that Byron should go coach with the Rams. I'm saying in LA there that it makes, I like a big market like that, making the minority hire and doing it in a way that they don't have to pay as much as going with either a first-time head coach in Leftwich or a guy who's looking to get back in the game and won't be as expensive to do it, right?
So you give what chances of him getting fired?
6. I'll give him a 6 out of 10. All
right. Next here, Josh McDaniels, as my wife calls me. Go ahead, Josh McDaniels.
As your wife? I was going to say, I hope she doesn't call you that as a nickname. Let me see what you want. I'm gonna keep recording this.
Yeah. I'm gonna be on the air right now. What's up?
So yeah, that'd be a crappy term of endearment. But no, listen, it's funny. You take the S off of McDaniels, and suddenly you have McDaniel, and now you have a good coach. But Josh McDaniels even getting a coaching job blows my mind. And for it to have gone as wrong as it had, how many people publicly, even in the lame stream, had the Raiders taking it to a playoff? Not playoffs, playoffs. I mean, a divisional win in the AFC West, right? With all that in mind, if you have anybody other than McDaniels, or rather, if you have McDaniels, I should say, as a coaching disappointment, you're probably right.
What grade are you giving this situation?
McDaniels to me is a 9. He needs to go.
Yeah, he's so bad. All right, next one. Oh, this will be easy, right? Nathaniel Hackett, Denver Broncos. What, did you say 10?
I said 10.
That low?
Yes.
I
How
went
do you ruin Russell Carrington Wilson? Okay, Rusty isn't a problem, and he became one in your crappy offense. But Kyle, Rusty should have overrode him. You don't do that to your boss the first time you go to a job. You don't tell the boss he's wrong the first day. What's wrong with you people? I mean, you know what happens when you do that? Your butt gets fired. Now, granted, I'm also not, making 245, is it? Yeah. That's a lot of millions that I'm not making. But yeah, no, Hackett's done. He didn't do a good job in Jacksonville when he was here. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, 15. All right. Yeah. All right. Another surprising-ish name, but I'll throw it in the ether anyway. Mike LaFleur, Green Bay.
Matt LaFleur is definitely a good pick, EJ. And if you didn't list his name, I would have demanded we add it. That's a 7.
Really?
That's a 7. Okay. You've obviously lost control of Aaron Charles Rodgers. You obviously have been exposed as somebody who depended on the talent of an Aaron Charles Rodgers. Here's what needs to happen if you're the front office in Green Bay. By the way, I'm pretty sure LaFleur would have already been fired if they actually had, an owner. Sorry, I can't read. If they actually had an owner, right? Because that whole way the thing works and who runs the team, it gets ambiguous, right?
Right.
But LaFleur has shown us he's an offensive guy, but when you had one of the best receivers, you currently have a future Hall of Fame receiver, and granted your O-line is overrated, but they're not that bad, and your defense is still getting run all over. You're wrong. You and your staff are bad at your jobs.
That high. Wow.
And also, let's keep note of another thing, Ernest Christian. You know what else we realized this year that's also hidden their flaws? A garbage ass division. How bad is the NFC North?
Yeah. And Minnesota isn't that great. I mean, they're 10-3, but what, a -1 point differential?
Correct. And I mean, listen, I'm taking nothing from Man Campbell. It's a hell of a story, but let's be real. They're able to compete like that because of the division they're in.
Right. True. So you give it a 7, huh?
I do.
Interesting. All right. I'd probably give it about like 4 or 5, but not. But I see a point though.
Here's the thing: we're not exactly sure how he and Aaron Charlotte Rodgers are jiving right now. The
That's
answer,
true.
Your point, is probably closer to somewhere in the middle, like a 5 or a 6. I'll get that. I'm saying 7 though, because that's the urgency in my mind.
Yeah, yours feel a little more take-ish, but it makes sense though. Makes perfect sense.
A little bit more take-ish. Did you say?
Well, nobody in the mainstream will say that Matt LaFleur's on a hot seat.
Well, that's because they're the lame stream, and I'm the student of the mother-loving game. Get it right, fool.
Mother-loving game. I love it. And finally, last one here. This one should be fairly interesting, too, because we discussed him last year. Cliff Kingsbury in Arizona.
Oh, God, yeah. No, listen, the mainstream is all over is that guy. There's no way he makes it through. He's definitely a 9, I mean, right? The late season collapse, check. The issues, winning big games, check. The inability to evolve Kyler Murray, check. Let's be honest. DeAndre Hopkins missing is a lot to do with why they were missing the mark early. Getting that overtime against the Raiders hid something early in the season, so fewer people were talking about it. But you better bet that bottom dollar, Ernest Christian, that Kingsbury will be in the offseason discussions for coaches that need to go. Hell, as it was, he was on thin ice going into this season, if you remember correctly.
And he got a small extension just to last year, just to, I guess, remove the lame duck situation. Mm-hmm. But I'm not mistaken, he returns to the lame duck situation next year if they keep him. So beyond this year,
yeah. And now granted, I'll put it this way: the reason why I give it a 9 instead of a straight up 10 is I don't know who the candidate would be immediately that they would pull in. Like for the Chargers, I was able to offer you Leftwich, was able to offer you Flores as other options. for guys who could get jobs. D'Amico Ryans has got to go somewhere. Maybe he ends up replacing somebody. He has ties to the Texans. Maybe he takes that job to replace Lovey. I don't know. He has ties to the Eagles, but I don't think anybody's going to be getting fired there. So yeah, for that, I for a team that needs to improve defensively too. I mean, D'Amico Ryans is on the list.
He's a hot name right now. That's for darn sure.
As he should be.
Right. All right. Finally, well, not finally. Two more things, but one more thing here, NFL related. That's two more things. I apologize. I was going to skip that. MVP race. I know we argued about this a little bit on the Huddle Up podcast this week. I told you, I think right after this week, going to this week, I have Jalen Hurts right now. That's number one. Mahomes number two.
Number one is way different than it's not close. And that was the statement I had a problem with in Jim's 5 observations, or I should call Jim's 5 fence sittings, because he always splits the middle. I forgot to make that joke on Tuesday, so no, I sound like
you missed that. No, he does that all the time, though. He does
he
plays safe all the time. Like, we get that, but we're here. This is what you and I look somewhat unique on the show, is that I'm okay with throwing out takes. There was that with me is that I'm not the idiot's going to stay on a take if things change. Like Brian Daboll.
You need an orthopedist on call for the way you jerk.
Brian Daboll is not coach here right now, but I still defend that through 6 weeks he was.
But he wasn't then either.
Okay, so. But again, you're wrong. But it's okay.
Bro, you've been dunked on time and again. Like, at some point, when do you stop being Greg Kite?
Oh, Greg Kite. Wow. I heard that name in a while.
Don't know that's Shaquille O'Neal's backup.
Yep. Nice mustache, too.
Great.
So
adult films. I'm just saying.
Real quick. So I my rankings now. I have Hurts 1, Mahomes 2, and Joe Burrow 3 is my top 3 rankings. Although I will, and I'm sure you're going to discuss it here now. What the person you said that should be considered seriously won't win it, but he should be considered seriously. Explain your take on Tuesday.
Well, and actually, here's what I want to do. And I did mention Tyreek Hill.
That's the guy.
Tuesday. But there's other names I also bring up that have very legitimate and overlooked credentials to be an MVP candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the premise of what I get into to open the Student of the Game podcast this week, and I would encourage you to listen to it before you just open fire on me.
Okay.
Lamestream media will never do it, and I'm a little disappointed you aren't doing it, EJ.
Okay.
The MVP today, if you're doing it right, is not a quarterback. The MVP can't be a quarterback. There are too many disappointed expectations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, too many people look at stats. The MVP is not a statistical award. If you want a statistical award, you give the offensive the offensive player of the year. That's what that's for, right? What makes an MVP video is still out there on Hilarity by Default that I did back in 2014, I think it was, and it's still completely valid as a case study.
8 years later, huh? Yeah.
Talent, bitch.
Yeah.
So, no, and I mean, I make that joke, but honestly, I would challenge you to watch it again or see it for the first time if you haven't. Hilarity by Default Sports Symposium series. What makes an MVP? The introductory video to that playlist. And quarterbacks not named Patrick LaVon Mahomes II aren't necessarily elevating their teams as much as they're carrying them, and there's a difference there. You say Jalen Hurts. I say the Eagles don't ask him to do enough as a quarterback to be the top MVP candidate. If you got him top, that's fine. But to make the statement that it's over and above, or that it's not close, or that it's head and shoulders.
I think it's close. I just think if
that's what you distinguish from Jim, and that's where I have the problem is that statement. And it's not just Jim that's made it. He was the first I heard it, and then I heard some lamestream people adopt it. And I'm like, nah,
fam.
Not paying at this juncture, But yeah, Tyreek Hill in and of itself, listen, man, even when Tua is having a bad game, he's not, right? In a game where there were multiple turnovers against the 49ers, who you can't get enough of defensively, Jackie had 146 yards. Okay? What was the Skyler? What's his butt? I forget. I don't know.
Kyle Thompson.
Yes, thank you. Tyreek still went off. Okay?
He did.
Imagine if Brock Purdy hit a guy for 200 yards receiving. That guy would be the MVP of the game. That's what Skylar Thompson did. You know how many yards Brock Purdy threw for? Less than 200.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Tua Tagovailoa is a good quarterback. He is a franchise quarterback right now. The Dolphins should retain him. I'd be careful paying him too much. Obviously, he is going to have durability issues. Let's, when it comes time to get to the negotiating table, I wouldn't bet the world on him. I'm more likely to pay Lamar Jackson and the combination of Lamar Jackson and Ty Huntley than I am Tua Tagovailoa. But you're also asking the same question of the best quarterback without dispute in the league right now, Patrick Mahomes II, and ask the question out loud in the preseason, can he do it without Tyreek? If that question's being asked in the offense where Tyreek is blowing up, how are we not having the conversation about Tyreek Hill as the wide receiver who will be the first winner of the MVP in decades?
I get it. I think it's a good argument to have. I'm not saying that. Well, it ain't gonna happen because that's the media for you.
Media is the problem. Yes, but This is why the Student of the Game awards their own awards, and why a Giants fan would have loved Saquon Barkley as the midseason MVP. Heck, even as a Cowboys fan, Irish fan, Chiefs fan, Pats fan, Bucks fan, you appreciated it. So
what's funny is when I said that after week 4, and I said Saquon should be in discussion with MVP, I got laughed at.
Not by me.
No, not by you, but other folks that we
cajole
with.
With respect, my bud. First of all, tell Zach I said hi because he doesn't talk directly. And B, what does he know? Second,
not to Zach. That's what guys we could compete with on Tuesdays.
Oh, was it Jim or Matt? I
meant both of them. I think actually last week.
They're both obviously wrong. AF. Hey, even Mikey Byrne from Five for Fighting agreed with me on the midseason awards. I don't know where he was at week 4, but I'm going to say this quickly, buddy. I have to make sure it wasn't one of the people laughing at you because that happens so much.
Yeah. And finally, one last NFL thing here. Our favorite thing we do every season. We've done this for quite a while now. I mean, we're going to continue doing it here. Our playoff lock. So real quick.
God, you can't do that this year, though.
Pick the conference. I know. Pick the conference right now. AFC, NFC first.
Let's do AFC first.
Okay, so right now, if the playoffs start today, AFC East right now, division leaders right now, Buffalo Bills in the East, Chiefs in the West, Ravens in the North, and Titans in the South. Uh-huh. Your wild cards currently right now to start today are the Bengals as the 5, Dolphins as the 6, and Patriots as the 7. Now, below them are the Chargers and the Jets, who have identical records with the Patriots as well, too. So things are a little bit tight there on the AFC side. Let's do this real quick. Well, these 7 teams that are in the spots they are right now, will this hold?
No.
And if not, what changes?
So you feel confident, too, especially with the injuries, that the Bengals are going to jump into the top 4, I'm sure.
Yes.
Okay. You also probably feel pretty confident that the Bills will hold. At 1 and the Chiefs at 2, right? The for me, and who's the 4? Remind me. Oh yeah, the Titans. That'll hold too, just because the division's that bad.
Can we talk about that real quick though before we go? We have 4 weeks left.
There's a path. It won't happen.
No, I agree. There's not enough games left to happen. Not enough games ahead.
Bro, listen. I would lose my shit to get to cover a damn NFL playoff game in Jacksonville. I would give a damn how bad they get beat by Buffalo. But hey,
can we talk about this real quick though? Because it could be a situation where if the Jags do their job and the Titans do fumble the next couple of weeks, that I don't know the tiebreakers yet on this yet. But week 18 does have Titans Jags.
Of course.
Okay,
and if the Jags win that game, they would have swept.
Right. Right now, they're 2 back. Right?
Yeah.
2 back. The Jags have 6 wins, right? No, it's 5 wins.
I think. See, now I gotta check.
I'm sorry.
You should be. Wait,
Jackson 5 wins, 5 and 8.
What I thought. Okay.
Yeah. Titans 7 and 6. I'm going to break down the Titans schedule the rest of the way. Okay.
Yeah.
This week They're playing the Chargers this week. We're
Okay.
healthier.
That could go either way, honestly, because they
could.
The Chargers might actually be healthier than the Titans in that game, believe it or not.
Right. So, in fact, if I look at that as and if it was broader, I think Chargers win that game.
Yeah.
Houston on Christmas Eve, they should win that game. What happened last year? It's insane. Week 17, Dallas Cowboys.
The Cowboys could blow that.
Right. Anything can happen. So what I see here is that there's 2 games here they can easily lose. Okay, before we get to Jacksonville week 18. So that gives the Titans now. Let's say they go week 18 based on what I'm saying. Let's assume the Chargers and the Cowboys are all losses. Titans are now 8-7.
Hold on. First, the Jags have to do some things too.
No, but we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Go ahead. This is the fun part of it now. So let's assume that the Titans lose at the Chargers and the Dallas Cowboys, and then they beat the Texans. They're 8-7 right now at that point. 8-8. Sorry, 8-8. Fucking week 18.
Yeah,
okay?
No, it sucks. I hate it.
Week 18 is the Jaguars. Now the Jaguars. Their next 4 games. If I can, you want to list them off?
Their next 4 games are the Cowboys, L, the Jets in East Rutherford, L. Well, depending on who recovers, in fairness, if Mike White is back, it is. The Texans, which, by the way, the Texans' single win is at Tony Baselli's induction into the Ring of Honor and dedication of his Hall of Fame ring at halftime. And, of course, heading to Tennessee to battle the Titans. So you need them to win 2 out of 3 playing the Cowboys and the Jets. The Cowboys, who are definitely beating expectations, and the Jets, who have an actual Coach of the Year candidate.
A lot of folks, though, including myself, have the Jags with the upset this week against Dallas.
Okay, let me tell you why that's problematic. What's the one thing that the Cowboys have offensively other than a run?
They got CeeDee Lamb.
They got CeeDee Lamb. They have a good receiving unit.
They do.
The Jags are awful in one particular position group defensively.
Corner?
The entire defensive secondary in general, and no offense
right.
to Andre Cisco, I think he's the shining spot in the secondary, but yeah, the DBs.
Let's play devil's advocate real quick.
Or they have a giant day on Saturday.
Let's say though they win either of these 2 games with the Jets and the Cowboys. You pick one. I don't give a shit.
Okay.
And then they beat Houston on week 17, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, as I said earlier, with the scenario with the Titans, they have 2 tough ones: Cowboys and Chargers, and this scenario plays out. Now we go to week 18, where the Jags play the Titans. Right? Is that game in Tennessee?
No, it's in Tennessee. Yes.
Okay. You have 8-8 Titans.
The Jags have to win all 3 games for 8-8, don't they? They only have 5 wins.
Yeah, but they can still get the tiebreaker if they win 3 of the 4.
So
the 2 back on division.
Okay, so yeah, you're saying they could go into it 7-9, beat the Titans to sweep them to get the tiebreak. Yeah, no, but yeah,
I'm not ruling it out. And the thing is, look at the schedules now.
I know. Listen, the world at large has already kept me out of going to the Cotton Bowl. They're not gonna give me the consolation prize of covering a playoff game in Jacksonville. That's not gonna happen.
Let me be clear there. Will it happen? The odds are happening are low because I think for me it's trusting in Jaguars every week for the next 3 weeks to get that opportunity to happen. And Tennessee will slip up.
Really good defenses,
right? But I'm not ruling it out because Tennessee has been kind of up and down lately. Jacksonville started to surge a little bit the last couple of weeks, so not ruling it out. And it's good to have these conversations. But in the meantime, I'll still say Tennessee. I ain't locking them though. I ain't locking Tennessee in that spot yet. I want to see this play out.
Here's the most credibility for your theory.
Okay.
It's not the Jags doing well. It's the Titans falling off.
Right.
There's a very real possibility that they lose to the Chargers. There's a very real possibility they lose to the Cowboys. There's a very real possibility, Ernest Christian, that they go into the game 7-9 or 6-10 if they drop the Texans game. There's a real possibility that they go on a 6-game losing streak. I don't think that'll happen. That's obviously the best case scenario for Jacksonville, but we all know what happens when I point out the weakness of the Titans. They do well.
That's true.
So
it's wrong history.
And well, listen, you saw in the Student of the Game podcast and on Huddle Up, bing, where I believed in them, and then they lost the very next week, to the Bengals, I believe it was. They couldn't even get their own damn revenge. Okay. So I think here for your scenario to play out, they need to lose to both the Chargers and Cowboys. If they win this weekend in LA, your theory's shot.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm locking the Titans. I'm locking the Titans.
Okay. So now
Titans fans should be very scared of that.
I know. So then you walk. Like I said, the wild cards. So like I said, I'm locking Buffalo. I'm locking Kansas City. I'm locking. I'll be honest with you. I'm locking Cincinnati. I've seen enough
as a wild card.
No, as a division winner. I think Baltimore will lose some point next couple weeks.
Oh,
there will be a switch up somewhere. Cincinnati gains it. And Tennessee, I'm not locking them yet because I don't trust them. The wild cards, the wild card pitch right now, Baltimore, I'll lock them as a wild card. Baltimore. The Dolphins are interesting because they did the thing that the Giants didn't do. They baked in wins early to now when the schedule's tougher, they can at least have wiggle room to have a loss here or two. So they still have a little bit of wiggle room here still. But the schedule, rest of the way, is a little tough. It's still a little rough.
Yeah.
You got Buffalo this weekend, Saturday football in Buffalo. Green Bay on Christmas Day, which, I mean, look, Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. You know what I mean? They should win that game, though. In Foxborough New Year's Day against the Patriots. Interesting.
That doesn't mean what it used to.
Oh, yeah, of course, but still a divisional game, and it's still the tough Pats and all that. And then the Jets at home.
I'm more worried about I shouldn't say I'm more worried about the Jets than the Pats, but the Pats and the Jets games seem incredibly winnable to me.
If they split that one in Green Bay, that's 10 wins for them. 10 wins should be enough to hold a wild card spot.
I agree.
You agree?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know what? I'm gonna do it. Fuck it, lock the Dolphins.
Me too.
Right. And who's the last wild card spot you think? So I have Baltimore and Miami.
I'm locking nothing, dude. I'm locking nothing because the Pats could sneak in and the Ravens could continue to fall because of their quarterback situation.
Chargers, no. Chargers, you don't feel good about the schedule going forward?
Still have a shot too. I completely forgot about them.
They're literally they're out, but they're literally by tiebreaker out. Their schedule. I'll tell you what. Brandon Staley's job is on the line here because after this week is Tennessee. Last 3 games at the close of the year: Colts, Rams, Broncos.
See, and here's the advantage they have in the I believe, and I'd have to look at the Patriots schedule. Do they have any NFC wins or any NFC? I shouldn't say wins. That's making assumptions. NFC games remaining, right?
Because the Chargers.
No, the Chargers. That's what I'm saying. The Chargers having an NFC game still on the schedule gives them an advantage because one of the tie breaks is conference wins, right?
And the Rams.
Okay. So yeah. So in that they have 2 conference games remaining. If the Chargers blow it to the Titans, the Pats still got to take care of business against you. I think you said it was
the Pats.
Sorry?
The Pats, you said?
Yeah. They still got to play the Dolphins. That's a likely conference loss. Mm-hmm. Right?
All right, here the Pats schedule right now, rest of the way. I'll tell you right now. I'll let Rain schedule. Raiders this week would have been kind of frisky. They should have lost that game against the Rams last week, but still kind of frisky. Bengals, that's probably gonna be a loss.
Loss.
Dolphins,
right. That's a conference loss.
And then the Bills close of the year, which we don't know if the Bills need a game or not at that point.
But if they are, well, they probably will to get number 1. So I'm calling that a 3rd conference loss. That'll knock them out.
Okay, I'm okay with that. I'm going to get in either. To be honest with you. And if they do get in, Bill Belichick Coach of the Year conversation maybe.
I'd have to see where other chips fall around him. It would be pretty.
Not saying win, but conversation at least.
Oh yeah, candidate, obviously. Yeah. Sure.
All right.
Sure.
All right, let's go to NFC now. Bring this up real quick. All right. This is obviously East leading Eagles, North leading Vikings, West leading Niners, and the Bucks in the South. Your wild card right now, if it starts today, is the entire NFC East: Cowboys, Commanders, New York Giants. The division leaders are very easy. Yeah. I'm locking all 4.
Eagles lock. Who else is there?
Vikings, you lock them up. Division. Literally one way from getting it.
Niners. I'll lock the Niners at this point because I really think they'll beat the Seahawks this week and solve it.
I'll lock the Bucks. I don't give a shit.
I can't.
Why can't you? Do you have confidence in any team in that division that will gain on them between now and?
It's not so much that I have confidence in the field; it's that I don't have confidence in the Bucks. And honestly, I don't want to waste the rest of the show analyzing all of it. Let's see a couple weeks before I lock that garbage heap up. Who cares?
Well, I'm there. I'm locking all 4 teams up to division winners.
And I know that Tom's going to watch this later. That's fine.
Yeah. Wild cards: Cowboys, Commanders, Giants. I'm locking the Cowboys.
The Cowboys. Yeah, I'm with you. This weekend's game is the reason why we can't lock either one.
Right.
That's all BS that any Giants fan should be ashamed of. But hey, your Red Tails, Commanders should be proud that was a draw.
They called it.
And Chase Young's back, so if you're a Giants fan, you should be very worried.
He's back this week?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Well,
see, that was a great dramatic reading. Like you were a Giants fan. You're getting better.
So there's 2 spots. So you have. Okay, here's the reality situation, Kyle. As we close up here,
a dramatic reading. I thought that.
I agree. We have 2 spots open, right? Okay, 2 spots.
Yeah,
and really 4 teams.
Okay,
vying. Okay, you have the Commanders, the Giants, the Seahawks, and the Lions. The Giants fucked themselves because the 2 teams in the outside also they lost to both those teams already. Lions and Seahawks. Okay. I said this 4 weeks ago. The Giants needed to bake in all those wins early before the stretch of the schedule.
Before the rest of the league figured out that Saquon Barkley was the entirety of their offense.
If they miss the playoffs, that Detroit loss, which I called before that week happened, is the reason they lost the division.
That's familiar. And who can blame you for believing in Man Campbell? Like, listen, you've made much worse takes.
Yeah. So, which teams I'm not saying to lock it, but if you had a guess right now, the 2 remaining wild card teams right now in the NFC, who would you take right now?
Boy, it's really hard for me to bet against the Seahawks because they did what your Giants couldn't get those wins baked in. The only win that they didn't get that they should have baked in is, ironically, Man Campbell and the Lions. So, I can't believe for some reason, and maybe I'm the problem. Maybe it's because it's your pick. I don't know. That's a joke. I'm just not there with the Commanders. Like the Red Tails, their schedule. First of all, their remaining schedule is awful, right? The Giants, well, the Browns probably arguably, but the Giants could be the weakest game that they have to finish the game. They have the Niners, they have the Cowboys. They done. He gone. Okay. I'm calling that now.
Who's that now?
That's the Red Tails. Sorry.
Okay.
The Commanders, right? That's a rough schedule to finish. You're screwed. Okay. Bottom line. I like Taylor Heineke. Get his bar stool ready. He's going to be drinking a lot of beers for that endorsement. Okay.
Yeah. Giants, Niners, Browns, Cowboys. Ooh. Although Cowboys might also need that game at the end too, because by then they may be snug in that 5 seed.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's probably your best point in their defense. Is that the Cowboys may not care. How ironic.
9 wins may be enough, actually.
In this year, sure, especially when we live in a world where a losing team's going to host a playoff game in the NFC South, right? I get that.
Yeah.
The Giants' schedule in its own right.
I'll tell you now. They have Washington.
Yeah, they have the
Washington Colts, Vikings, and Eagles. Now the Giants part I've been saying for the last couple weeks on the show. So they have an opportunity to get at least 2 wins here. You got to win this week. Number 1, they got to win this week against Washington. Got to win this week. Okay. If not, then the only opportunities of 2 wins are Indy and then Philadelphia week 18, which they may need that game also because of.
I think they can beat the Vikings. That's possible.
In Minnesota, I doubt that. But
we doubted it a lot of times, but the Lions did it.
No, not Minnesota. No, not in Minnesota though.
Trust me, you're giving that home field way too much credit. I've been.
They need 2 wins here. They need to get 2 wins here. I think if they get 2 wins, I feel a little better about the chances.
Right. I think 2 out of the next 3 very pliable.
Okay. Seattle's case here, it's funny because when we did this last time a month ago, we were saying, "Oh, Seattle's schedule's easy rest of the way." You and I both agree on that. But then they lost a couple of games. They lost to Carolina, which we considered an easy game.
Well, it's because it is an easy game. They blew it, EJ. Ish happens. But their remaining schedule is pretty darn tough because the reason why the Seattle schedule was easy is because they had easy teams. They blew it. That's the problem, okay?
Raiders lost.
Here's the list of games they wish they had back. Atlanta, okay? New Orleans, Tampa, the Raiders, the Panthers, all garbage-ass teams. Right?
Their next 3 weeks, you got Niners this week, tonight actually. Yep. The Chiefs next week on Christmas Eve. The Jet game, granted at home, but still a tough game. The Jets do play well.
Who's a quarterback? If they have Zach Wilson, they're going to win that game.
Right. Well, hopefully that might win still a starter. And then week 18 against the Rams. Obviously, they should win that game, but they almost lost to the Rams last week. So 2 weeks ago. So.
Well, that's because Baker Mayfield came in and they didn't have the film. I mean, that is what it is.
Oh no, he didn't play. He didn't play the game though. He didn't play the game.
You're talking about the week before. Okay.
Right.
But yeah. So no, and I'll put it this way: the Rams right now are an automatic win. Simply put. If you blow it, you deserve to not make the playoffs. I think that's fair.
The only other game I can see that's a win, a game they probably even like slightly over the average, is the Jet game. That's it.
So yeah, but I mean, they already have. Oh, they only have 7 wins. That's all right. Yeah, that's problematic.
And I said 9 is a better number. I lowered it down to 9, not 10. The Lions, meanwhile,
7 spots. I got you.
The Lions are now 6-7. They're in the mix also too. Their schedule, if I pull up here real quick,
is favorable. They got the Bears, Panthers, Packers, and Jets.
Wow, really?
So that's that. Man, you know what? The Lions just got real, kid.
Jets, Panthers, Bears, Packers, and they may have pulled Aaron Rodgers at that point for the rest of the year.
I'm gonna tell you this, buddy. Their last loss, if this were huddle up and we were doing lock it up,
it's this week.
Their last loss is on Sunday. Yes.
Which can hurt too, though. But
I might be teasing a bit. I can't promise that my lock next Tuesday, and don't you dare steal it, Christian. My lock may be that the Lions don't lose another football game.
If they get through this week, of course.
In the regular season, correct.
If they get through this week.
No. Forget this week. That doesn't change my answer. Screw getting through this week. I'm saying starting Christmas Eve, and I might change my mind, but the premise would be starting with Christmas Eve that the Lions don't lose a game in the rest of the regular season.
Which means they are in the playoffs.
Potentially, yeah.
So the 2 teams you feel best about right now, not locking them up, are Washington and Detroit, or Giants in Detroit.
Giants in Detroit, based on
okay. Because I'm leaning on more on Detroit and Washington.
Well, and I know why you're all over your red tails. Sorry, Commanders, because you want to make fetch happen, and that's the only reason you're doing it. Okay.
I mean,
riddle me this, Jackwagon. How can you be verbally filleting the Niners all season and then make this statement about the red tails? How? You can't.
I was wrong.
Can't
buddy. I was wrong. But that's what I'm trying to tell you. I was wrong on the Niners when the year started. And a couple weeks I was like, wait, this is a playoff team. What am I doing?
So by that logic, them getting the Red Tails getting past the Niners to make the playoffs is a bad take. But you have that.
Now I'm confused.
The Commanders' final games, one more time for you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is why I'm not picking them, okay? Obviously, the Giants this week, that could go either way. The rest of their games, Niners, Browns, Cowboys.
But we said the Cowboys game may be needed anymore. Browns, they should be the Browns. Should. And then Niners, of course, yeah.
Well, see, and you can't have it both ways where the Cowboys upset.
Here's my question, though. Are you picking Washington to beat the Giants this week, or picking the Giants to beat Washington? It's in Washington, by the way.
I did pick your Red Tails.
There you go. So 8 wins there, 5 more win, they get in the playoffs.
Please pay attention to how I said that. I picked your Red Tails to beat the Giants. Yes.
I hate you. Plug away.
But here's the thing. You can't make all those. You can't lock up the Cowboys then because you picked them to lose to the Jags. Now, granted, they already have 10 wins. That's why we're doing it. But
let me just say this way. None of those 4 teams we're mentioning here now are getting 10 wins. So,
that's fair.
There's that. They ain't getting 10 wins. None of those 4 teams.
Fair.
Even if Detroit wins out.
Which is why you made 9 the number. I get you.
Right, exactly.
I get you.
Maybe Detroit, based on your logic, because you win the rest of the year. Maybe Detroit. But even then, they're the only team that gets there. You still have 3 other teams to deal with. So Detroit, Dallas is fine.
Yeah, because if my prediction is correct about the Lions, then it's mathematically impossible for the Seahawks because tiebreak would come into play based on head-to-head, I believe.
Yeah.
So
Detroit's schedule looks nice rest of the way. We'll see how this goes. These 4 weeks should be fun. Plug away, Kyle Nash.
By the way, that's what she said. Thank you, Ernest Christian, for finally getting back on the case and bringing in the Student Game Report after a month hiatus. Of course, you can find me on Twitter at the SOTG. Find me on Instagram as the same, the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as the Student of the Game. Check out my writings with the black and gold banneret covering UCF basketball, men's and women's, as well as football. The Military Bowl is coming up December 28th, so there'll certainly be content related to that. And I will be recording the Black and Gold Banneret later this afternoon, the weekly podcast. So check that out. Of course, my work with the 3-point conversion and the matchup mania. EJ, I think you'll like this week's matchup mania, and I think you'll like the following weeks even more as we get close to the holiday spirit. Now EJ needs you know why they call it a holiday spirit there, EJ?
Why?
Because alleged Giants fans drink when they think about that receiver. Anyways, spirits. You get the joke?
Yeah, I totally get it, and I'm bumming you more. Thank you.
Too real? Gotcha.
Way real.
And of course, check out Wednesdays, the Student of the Game podcast, which is on the Huddle Up YouTube channel. It's on A7BN Sports Facebook. It's on the Beyond the Buzzer Facebook. It's on the Student of the Game Facebook. It's also in podcast form at all the platforms you could possibly desire. And if it's not, let me know. I'll get it there. And then of course, my friend Demosthenes Euclid, hilarity by default, blah, blah, blah. There you go. Right over here. You see the mask, hilarity by default YouTube channel. My friend Demosthenes Euclid. There you are, EJ. Settle down. And of course, my friend Captain Chris Hill with A7BN Sports and the Captain Company Morning Show on Old School 101.com. An honor, joy, and privilege, my friend. I know you got business to take care of, so I'll get out. Class dismissed.